This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Closer to winning big. Remember, Naivas is your ultimate one-stop shop for everything fresh food. Talk about new appliances and all Christmas decor. Head down to the new store in Tatu City, Gashie, or our one mall, Magadi today, and keep that loyalty card handy. I will be telling you how else you get to enjoy using Naivas in the next hour.
Indeed.
Katu Hapa.
And then, just before we get into our conversation and you're thinking about what your plan might be, the folks at ICA Lion are waiting for you to tell them that you're thinking about it because they can actually help you get it sorted out. You're thinking, okay, what do I want to do? I have some extra float and I'm thinking about next year, next 10 years, what is the situation going to look like? Well, ICA Lion is saying you don't have to plan alone. You can just come to us and we'll have that conversation. You've been doing so well in everything that you've been doing, putting a shilling aside, and you're telling yourself, everybody has a plan, but what about me? The feeling of needing to get your future locked down is real. But when you're thinking about it, getting a plan doesn't have to be intimidating or elitist. That's why I'm talking about ICA Lion. They're cutting through the noise and making financial planning relatable. And whether you're just starting out or looking to secure a comfortable retirement, they have plans to help you build wealth, to protect your assets, and to prosper with retirement security. Stop worrying about the future and start planning for it. Get the easy personal plan that works for you. The question is, what's your plan? Go to www.icalion.co.ke today. And we're getting into a conversation this hour, and that word plan is going to feature quite often in that conversation today. Our guest is in the hot seat, and we're going to be looking at Parliament on a weigh scale. Coming out of 2025 into 2026, Dr. Martin Olo is an advocate and political analyst, and he's here with us this morning. Good morning.
Morning, Do. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I'm glad to be here. I hope this is the last show that you want us to do this year, because after this, I want to go to the village to enjoy that airtime and bundles you've been talking about.
You can use your Airtel bundles in the village. You don't even have to worry about it.
And I'm tired of this city.
It's the strongest network.
But I'm happy that there's only one Dennis for today, so I'm okay. I feel safe.
Well done. Are you going to be driving down to the village?
Yes.
We need you to be careful as you do that.
So I'll be driving at 80 kph.
Utuambie ukifika.
Let trouble find me, but I'm not going to look for it.
Thank you very much. That's what we want to hear.
And it's not going to find me either.
Amen.
Amen.
Kabisa.
Good.
Welcome. We'll have that conversation because it could be the last one for this year.
Yes.
Because the time is going, and folks at Parliament are on recess, and they'll come back in the new year with a lot on the in tray, and that's what we'll be looking at today. But let's start off with the proverb for today.
Yes, the proverb is from the continent, no specific country, right? So it is the ancestors, those that started this continent called Africa, right? But it says, if a king judges the poor with fairness, his throne is established forever. How would you interpret it?
Sounds biblical. Because really, what humanity is called to is to be fair to itself, and especially to be fair to its downtrodden. And whoever dispenses justice, whoever is fair, is likely to be immortalized, whether you are a king or whether you are a leader. So that when you look at the Bible, these people like Solomon, they are famed for wisdom. They said, look, anything, wisdom. So if you're wise, you would be careful to be just. And when you are just, your name is immortalized. So, spot on.
Absolutely. Real quick, give us a scorecard of how Parliament has performed in this year, where we're going into recess now, and that there have been many things that have come on Parliament's table. And there's also been a lot of blame that has been laid at Parliament's feet in terms of what they've been or not been able to do. If you gave a scorecard from a policy and governance point of view, what would that be?
Yeah, very, very interesting. And this is the place to begin. There are two ways of scoring this Parliament. One is on governance and policy, and I'll give them 3 out of 10.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
okay.
The other one is to assess them on their ability to be sycophantic and their ability to connect with what matters to them. I'll give them 10 out of 10. Because they have been extremely predictable in terms of their ability to sing songs of praise and to succumb to the whims of their masters. And, they have their masters both in terms of the people and in terms of the executive. These parliamentarians actually know why they're in parliament. The more they sing their praises, I saw the other one telling the president, sell everything that you have, sell it. So they seem to know what to do in terms of their pockets and in terms of their self-serving interests. But do they know what's good for this country? Do they legislate? Do they actually create policy ecosystem that works? Absolutely no. And that's why I give them 3 out of 10. And I'm a teacher, so when I give you 3 out of 10, that's a fail. Yeah, you need to rethink.
What would be the indicators for that really low mark? What are the indicators for you to say, you didn't do your assignment, this group project that you worked on, you did, below par? What are the indicators for that?
The big 3.
Okay.
1, the ability to oversight the executive. Whether it is in health services or education services, or just mention how the executive has performed on those ones. Where has been the ability to scrutinize? Not from Parliament. 2, when you look at their ability to legislate and their ability, therefore, to provide this country with stability between implementing the Constitution and fidelity to the rule of law, they come out a cropper. Most of the laws they are passed, including the cyberspace and cyber crimes and so on, have fallen below the threshold of constitutionality. So that, again, gives them a negative score on that. And the third issue, which is big on issues of Parliament, is representation. You see, the business of Parliament is oversight, the business of Parliament is legislation, and the business of Parliament is representation. So when they speak, do they look and do they appear like they are giving a fair attempt at representing the Kenyan public, particularly on matters governance, on matters policy? There again, they come out a cropper as an institution, because basically you're saying that if you have a stronger parliament, doing better oversight, doing better legislation, and doing serious representation, you would get the equilibrium that there's, of course, the whole discussion around issues to do with separation of powers and issues to do with the 3 arms of government. The checks and balances only operate when any of these organs is exercising this in a manner that offers oversight, a manner that offers, confidence in terms of the rule of law.
Yep. Okay. When you look at Parliament that we have and the roles that they are supposed to do, so we talk about representation, oversight, and legislation. And one would say you've given them 3, right? But this is an opportunity for them to go back to their people, to speak to Mwananchi, and that is where rubber meets the road. Do they have anything to tell Mwananchi?
That's why I told you that there are 2 sides of this coin. If you look at what their core business is, they come a cropper. But is that core business resonating with their constituency?
Yes.
Now I want you to see that there are 2 constituencies they care about. One is that they reflect the majority of their constituencies where the corruption and anything goes. So they know that and by the way, you have heard some people say that it doesn't matter whether you talk in Parliament or not. What matters is whether you have the ground on. Yeah. So they have an idea, and for sure those MPs who say nothing in Parliament, bring no motion in Parliament, some of them are very popular on the ground. Why is it so? Because they resonate with their people in the sense that if it's about tokenism, they know how to assuage them with tokenism. They know how to meet them at their point of need. The other day you saw somebody going to church and saying, I'm going to give you 57 million. That is a kind of stuff that those who know what their people want thrive on. So the point is that on that level, they seem to be okay in terms of, they seem to be resonating with their people. They seem to be in sync. Some of them will come back on that account, but you also know that people also abandon their leaders or their leaders also abandon their people as soon as they have entered an agreement. And in most cases, we see more MPs being bundled out. Do we see them coming? Do we see them being replaced by better people? Absolutely not. No. So the game seems to be the same. And the lessons seem to be that we are not learning.
So, Wakili, you paint a picture of Mwananchi or a citizenry then that gives this power to these legislators to continue doing the wrong things, to continue not delivering in Parliament, because when they come back to us, we listen to them, we take the loot that they have brought back to us because they understand the ground. If the ground as well understood the requirements of a member of Parliament and held them up to account, then perhaps we would see a difference in terms of how we weigh them on the scale.
Absolutely. And I want us to also get into our history.
Yeah.
You've heard of the Wangwa Makeris of this Kenya. You have heard of Koitalel Samoei of Rift Valley. You've heard of people like Mary Chelagat, the MPs. You've heard of people like Martin Shikuku, people like Masinde Muliro. There were people in this country who are elected to do exactly what the people wanted. In other words, the people wanted people who were vocal, people wanted people who could stand no nonsense. They fought against injustice. There was a history that we had where, people who were vocal against the colonialists are the people that ended up getting a seat in terms of the LegCo or in terms of getting into the National Assembly and so on. That history we have. So there's a time when we loathed unfairness. There's a time when we wanted people who could fight for us, people like Tom Mboya, people like Jaramogi. There was a time in this country we wanted people like that. And then slowly, people like Martin Shikuku began to be irrelevant in our eyes because they were talking about the people's watchmen. And the watchmen, the people that were being talked about, refused to just stand by. They wanted tokens. And so people like Shikuku began to lose ground because the kind of politics they were having and the kind of expectations that people were having were increasingly. So we have this new bundle of people. Today, our kind of politicians are these flashy guys with V8s and unexplained sources of money.
And red bottoms.
And red bottoms, as you put it. So that is the society of today, and those are the leaders of today. So whatever we see is reflective of what the kind of citizens we have today and the kind of leaders they expect to see today.
Right. So even as you say this, Wakili, then it comes into my mind that if we're looking at Parliament specifically, and this involves the National Assembly and Senate, right? Both of these houses, and that these are elected, except for those who've been nominated, these are elected positions that are supposed to be a representation of the people. Now, I think about the private sector, and that if somebody gave you a job in the private sector, that they demand of you to do certain things, and that if you don't do it, you're put on something called a performance review. And they've given you a period of time within which you must either prove your mettle or they ask you to exit the position and they can bring somebody else who can. We are able to keep, in that sector, we're able to keep people. And this is done by anybody across board. This is done by a manager in their 30s or a manager in their 60s. This is done across board by HR, talent officer, whatever the case may be. We're able to do that. But for some reason, we're not able to hold these individuals who you have delegated your sovereignty and power to and pay them a salary in order to do this. We're not able to keep them accountable. Now, is it because we don't know what they're supposed to do, or we do not know that we have the power to actually do that?
You see, there are two ways of looking at this, and I'm amplifying both ways. There are those of us sitting in this room and in this station who know what an MP needs to do and who would rather have the MP do governance, do oversight, and do all those things. We are in a different league. Maybe civil society, the Chapter 15 Constitution commissions, the Chapter 15 of the Constitution's commissions have the mandate to keep calling out for that. But those that are called the citizen, the voter, we have given them an opportunity to do a recall of their members of parliament. The question is, what is the kind of recall clause that is there and whether it can be effective? We've also asked members of parliament to tell us how that is, and they have made sure that they make it difficult for them to be recalled. Now that's another story. So what we are left with is that general election, that every 5 years ritual where we come in and we say, okay, you didn't seem to perform to our expectations, so we are going to kick you. So I want to say that when you are looking at the MPs and you're looking at their rating or looking at their performance, they tend to be rated differently or vetted differently because it is either the political party that's bringing them, and most of these guys came in because they were wearing the right colors and they were in the right position. They never came in on any other credentials. The yellow was trending in your area. You made sure you won the color yellow. You are okay. Or the orange was trending in your area. You made sure you wore the color orange and you didn't have to have any other agenda. Or if you were on the other side and there was the umbrella that you found yourself hiding under, you went under the umbrella. So having said that, what we are dealing with here is people whose own origin or whose ascendance to the stage is determined by other parameters. What was the trending party and how did you come? Number one. Number two, what were people's perceptions? What were they looking for? Were you able to resonate with them? Yes, you resonated with them. They elected you. So these are people that begin from a strength. One, their party. Two, the constituency seems to be okay with them. And three, they also know how to play around with their constituents. So if they know there's a problem, they know how to go back there and take it on. So we are also dealing with an institution here that is not necessarily accountable and does not necessarily have to record anything in terms of their performance. And how it is vetted is different. Look at the opposite, which is the judiciary or the executive. The executive knows that it has to make rules, it has to make laws, or it has to work with the parliament to make laws, but it has to implement.
Yes.
It has to deliver roads and so on. When you look at it in this current constitution, the issue of how resources are actually allocated is determined by the parliament.
Yeah.
But when you look at members of parliament, they go to State House to say tunataka barabara. So you look at it and say, what is this drama all about? So we have a situation where we need to revisit our basics and keep on understanding that unless we are in tune with what we think is good governance, what we want as policy, and what we want as effective representation, we will still find ourselves at that nexus where we elect today and we cry throughout. Remember, this government, for example, was supposed to be a Mama Mboga government. It is far from Mama Mboga, but Mama Mboga voted for it. Now it's very far from Mama Mboga. But they are now going to have to look for another narrative so that come 2026, they will be having another narrative.
But they already have one now.
Yes.
Singapore.
We're going to the first
Singapore.
world. We're going to the developed world. We're going to the first world.
You know, now that's the biggest lie that you can ever have.
No,
You know,
why?
no, listen to me. Listen to me.
Okay, be nice.
Singapore is a port city. Okay?
Yes.
Singapore is like Mombasa. Kenya has only one Mombasa and maybe one other Lamu or a few places. So how do you tell me that Kenya will look like Singapore? A port city. This country that has such an ecosystem, Northeastern, Turkana, Nyanza, Rift Valley. We are so different. So it's so illusionary for anybody to tell you that we will be like Singapore. We are not a city port. We are not a port city country. Singapore, we can never be like Singapore. Never. So even if you wanted to stretch your dream, unless you are talking about Mombasa being transformed into a city that looks like Singapore, Dubai, whatever you want to say. But if you say Kenya will look like Singapore,
maybe it's the idea. But isn't that what we do? That we sell ideas and we sell the possibility.
The idea was
we can sell the possibility of the developed world experience, and that's what folks are saying. It was interesting because the chairman of KRA in Dorita Morelli spoke with me yesterday, and he said, this thing is achievable if we get all our shenanigans out of the way, and that could be what is being sold. That the dream or the idea of a dream for Kenyans that you could be here and make your way there is what you would ride on, because Mama Mboga clearly didn't work.
No, let's be together on this. The Mama Mboga phenomenon remains a reality today. The talk about the bottom heavy. In other words, the bottom is still as big as we know it today. So if you are going to invert that bottom, therefore, unless you invert that bottom, in order for you now to look at everybody being within the bracket of development, talking about a first world is a mirage. It is an illusion. It can only be something that you inspire people who have no idea where they need to be. But if you have people who know where they want to go, like myself, I'll tell you, forget it. If you cannot fix basics, you cannot fix health, you cannot fix education, you cannot fix infrastructure, housing. If you are telling me, and this is the other thing, and Dennis, you need to agree, affordable housing. You are telling a fellow who is living in his home and who is enjoying his livestock and so on, you are telling him about affordable housing. And what are you telling him? That they should now leave their villages to come and stay in an apartment? What are you telling them? What is that? We want to go as a people, where we are at, and what aspirations we are dreaming about. The truth of the matter is that we cannot go to even middle-level income when we cannot deal with the majority poor, when we cannot deal with the employment issues, unemployment issues, when we can't take care of our people. We can't. So where we have people cannot afford medical health, everything you want to throw at people, you tell them to pay for it, then what's the business of a government?
And Wakili, that brings us to the point where one asks the question, does Mwananchi understand the power that they do have? And what do I mean with that?
Yeah.
Because, like we've said, the recall clause has been made so difficult for it to be effected. Policies around it, basically Parliament has said, no, we are not going to make it easy for you to recall us. But we have every wedding period, every 5 years, when Mwananchi finally has the power to make that decision, and that is the power of the vote. And you look at the power that Mwananchi has and decisions that they do make, and you look at the Parliament that they do select, because we have said, we have established, the greatest house that we have today is Parliament, like you've said. It's the one that decides what funding goes where, allocation goes where. It is the State House that begs Parliament to approve its budgets, right? But do we know the power that we have in electing those who are there and even giving them directions in terms of, we want that clause to be effected so that it's easy for us to ensure that this country finally is dealing with the fundamentals, the basics, so that the Singapore dream is a reality? Does Mwananchi understand the power they have?
You know, first of all, I want you to know that Singapore has about 7 million people. Kenya has about 45 million people. So that's another story. But back to whether Mwananchi understands, I think that's where we are at. And I would put it the other way around. Is the understanding of the Mwananchi in sync with the aspirations of development? And my answer would be no. Because if today I purpose to get my children educated, I'll do everything. I'll take them to school. I'll pay fees. If we purpose as a country to get better leaders, we will do everything to determine what that leadership means, and we'll work on that. But unfortunately or fortunately, we have already decided that anything goes. You just come with a V8 and pots of money. You can even change your name like the guy Ombere, and we will forget your past, and we will sanitize you, and we will give you leadership. And we will even support you from the highest office, and even the deputy president and others will come and camp and campaign for you. That is where we are. That we can campaign for people without integrity. We can actually promote people whose past is questionable, and those are the people who want in leadership. And somehow, those are not few.
So, Wakili, if you give Parliament, right, the three that you've given them, what would you give Mwananchi that is putting this Parliament there? How would
Precisely, this Parliament is reflecting the people they represent. So the people and their representatives are at sync, at par. So you cannot separate the poor performance of MPs in Parliament from their constituents. Because for me, I think I'm saying that it's poor performance. For the people who elected the fellows, they are happy with this performance. So they are in sync. That's why I told you there are two levels. If you're looking at it from a sycophantic level, from meeting the people at their point of need, they score 100%. Because they do. But when you look at it from a governance parameters, when you're looking at the ease of doing business, when you're looking at the direction of the country, when you're looking at the rule of law, when you're looking at constitutionalism, when you're asking, where is this country going? Are all the parameters okay? When you're looking at the reports of the Auditor General and the Controller of Budget, are we using our resources properly? Are we holding government to account? If you put all those together and whether corruption is going down, those indicators are showing you that we're doing badly. And yet, we have a Parliament that is seemingly doing very well for the purpose of the executive and for purposes of those that they represent. Because they will tell you, look, you guys don't understand. Our people are happy with us. And so you bring in people and you say, leaders, reflect their followers.
Okay. So let's look at this year, 2025, and the different opportunities that Parliament had to prove some of the things that you mentioned. That there was vetting, and then confirmation of certain individuals who went into positions, whether that was at the CS level or otherwise. There were executive orders that were made by the president. Across board, whether it was, sale of certain companies, there was also loans, borrowing. There were benchmarking trips that brought money, whether it was Japan, Germany, China, across board. There were very many things that happened, and very little times did we hear the voice of Parliament. And up until recently, when we see this infrastructure fund, for example, whether it was a cabinet decision or not, there is a place that Parliament plays here where they say, hang on a minute, this is what you're doing essentially with taxpayers' money, which we give you the power to spend as the legislature. We didn't hear Parliament's voice very much.
Not surprising.
So it's not surprising. And is this an indication of what we will see coming forward? Because then it's very scary if you have a silent Parliament, especially when the country's money is being spent.
It's not a quiet Parliament.
Okay.
It's a complicit Parliament. It has decided to go in bed with everything that governance and rule of law would frown on. So it's a very, very carefully orchestrated scheme by Parliament to go mute on matters that would be of importance to the rest of us, except matters that are important to the executive. Having said that, what I want us to look at is, and again you say Parliament was quiet, we are in this studio know that despite the fact that Donald Trump is very popular and has been, or rather he rode on popularity to get to where he is, when it comes to the issue of the budget, or when it came to the issue of the budget, there was a lockdown of the of the government in the US, because both sides couldn't agree that things were okay and therefore go on with business as usual. In this country, a lockdown is a mirage. It's a far-fetched idea where you can say that there can be a kind of a stalemate between the executive and the legislature. Most likely, the legislature is going to kowtow the executive, and kowtow not because of good reasons, but for reasons that it does not want to undermine the executive in that manner. So having said that, we now need to come back and ask ourselves the question, if this country is ever going to achieve this growth, this development, and so on, what kind of systems do we require? I know we move from idea to idea. We don't settle on anything. We came up with beta, bottom-up, economic transformation, whatever. We have abandoned it. We came up with shisha, whatever. We don't know where it is. Now we are on infrastructure fund, 5 trillion. I mean, those are good ideas. But what happened to Vision 2030? What happened to some of the basics that policies that we had approved as a people or as a country? Why can't the executive and the assembly just follow that blueprint? Or to what extent is now this new idea of 5 trillion and implementation of that blueprint? In other words, why do we do long-term plans that we abandon for short-term plans? And should short-term plans determine long-term plans, or should short-term plans actually be chipping and beefing into long-term plans? So a country that doesn't plan on a long-term basis and is working on fads and working on ideas that are new every day is a country that's not likely to achieve the milestones that it is aspiring to. So if we are going to grow, what happened to our Vision 2030? And remember, we once had Vision, we had said water for all by 2000. When 2000 arrived, we forgot. Now we say Vision 2030, we had a number of things we wanted to achieve. This is 2025. We are going to 2026. We're about to reach 20. Nobody will remember that we once had Vision 2030 because 2030 came and we remained where we were.
But Akili, we had Vision 2030, which is a plan, and you look at some of the initiatives, including the standard gauge railway that we talk about today. It is a baby of Vision 2030. You talk about Thika Road, baby of Vision 2030. School, free education, Vision 2030. Now here we are better, bottom-up economic transformation agenda, that is a plan that we are pushing, and is it anchored on any long-term vision? And would that as well be carried over by the next administration? Because you look at a model, say, what China did, it is a vision that they have had, and every other successive leader has carried over on that plan that has built on to for China to be what it is today. Do we have a plan?
And that's why I was saying that we have had plans before. If you look at the session of paper number 10 of 1965 on African socialism, we had a plan. If you look at Vision 2030, we have had a plan. If you look at our the economic recovery strategy paper, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, we've had plans. Did Kibaki stick to the plan? Yes. Did Kibaki give us Vision 2030? Yes. Did he have an economic recovery strategy paper that he worked on? Yes. That tied up some of the ills that the Moi government had visited on us for a while? Yes. What happened after that? You ask yourself. Did Uhuru have any plan that, and when you say Uhuru, it's Uhuruto because they were
yes.
So did they have any plan that was long term? They came, abandoned Vision 2030. They came in the second term, they told us, Big Five.
Yeah.
That disappeared. These guys arrived with a bottom-up economic strategy, and it was selling very well, and Mama Mboga was excited. It disappeared. They have come up with SHA. It is on the where it is. Even MPs the other day said they don't want SHA, they want their own thing. So if it is good for us, why can't MPs come on it? Now we are on the 5 trillion infrastructure fund. We are always having a fund. We are always having a story to tell. We are always on the move. When will we settle?
Wakili, lack of having a plan that guides us on what it is we want to do in terms of this is our plan on education, this is our plan on infrastructure and development, this is our plan on manufacturing, this is our plan on healthcare. Seems as though we are on autopilot with no destination. What does that mean in terms of service delivery and ensuring that the core is sorted out?
And this is the problem, that as we speak here, the education sector is in shambles. Schools opened and closed before even government capitation went. And we tell students, we tell parents, don't pay fees. And we tell people that, education is expensive, we are even going to charge. In other words, what are we committed on? We have SHA. Different people will tell you their experiences. But generally, what was wrong with NHIF? And why did we have to abandon it so fast and replace it with something that is problematic? Why couldn't we have done this gradually? So when you are saying we can't meet our basic education, we are struggling to put money in education. And we say, and the other day, I don't know, you people are in this media, you saw the ministry itself saying that they have discovered some money. The Ministry of Education, that some money has been going to ghost schools.
Yeah, and
a ministry saying that, and it's the one that is pretending over how money. In a country, in another country, would you get away scot-free by saying that you don't even know some money has been going to ghost and it goes like that? Surely. So basically, what I'm saying is that we need to take ourselves a bit more seriously, and we need to know that unless we fix basics, anything else we talk about is a mirage, is a dream. And dreams are not bad, but it's a dream that cannot be realized. So let's build up basics. Let us start from where it matters. Are people who are healthy? Are people who are educated? Are people who have opportunities that they can explore and make businesses? Will be people who can go where we are going. You talked about China. Right now, you know that China is busy planning. And when you look at China's education, right from the nursery school throughout, they are building around innovation. They are training children on how to become innovators. I mean, the whole education is looking to the future.
It's part of the plan.
Yes, it's part of the plan. They're saying this is the kind of Chinese we want in 2050, 2070. And they're building it up. Now, fine, we have CBE, and technically speaking, CBE or CBC, whatever, it's a good thing. You're telling people to start finding their talents early. But put in their resources, put in focus, and ensure the system works. You don't leave it on autopilot. You don't leave it to chance. You don't leave it to the vagaries of some bureaucrats who will tell you, yes, we'll fund this one, we'll not fund that. You put your money where your mouth is.
So would people be wrong? Because there are folks who are accused of conjecture. There are folks who are accused of just being negative about things. So would people be wrong by saying it doesn't look like there was a plan in the first place, and this is just another opportunity at whatever level for public funds to be, gobbled up, and that to ride on a political wave that you think is going to, keep the people interested, just the way the bottom-up Mama Mboga whole story was? Is this another thing? Because one would imagine that Parliament would jump up on something like this and say, hang on a minute, where are we going? We already owe so much money. We already have so many things that are not working. How about we fix those first? One would imagine that that's what you expect Parliament to do, to be able to jump on something and say, hey, hang on, we need to do things systematically. But you abandon one thing before you're able to finish it and jump onto another. Is it just being negative? Is it just being, lacing things with conjecture? How would you then look at this thing objectively and say, no, we can do better?
You see, there is no any other way of looking at Parliament in terms of Senate and in terms of the National Assembly other than to look at the powers that have already been vested in those institutions in the Constitution, and to know that they have a role which they have to play, particularly, for example, the issue of resource allocation. They are the ones that are been given the mandate to determine how much resources we raise and where we allocate those resources. A very important role. So today, if you are talking about the 5 trillion infrastructure fund, is it an initiative being driven by Parliament, or is it an initiative being driven by executive, which will be drummed down the throat of Parliament and they'll just accept it? So for me, it's a question of taking your business seriously and focusing on it. Now, I wish I could point to 1 or 2 parliamentarians that you can say seem to have an idea, whether they're in the minority or the majority, seem to have an idea where they think this country should be going, or what they think is going wrong in this country, and they're working on it. I wish I could point at that. But when you have a whole house complicit, quiet, decidedly focused on saying everything is okay, then we will not be able to have that opportunity where the executive can wake up and challenge, or be challenged, and where the Parliament can wake up and challenge the executive. As for Senate by design is a lost cause, because the Senate, as designed by this Constitution, is such an ineffective organ. What is the role of a senator?
To make sure that it's supposed to be, I guess. Oh, go ahead.
It's supposed to be holding, or rather assisting accountability and assisting resources to go to the various counties.
Right.
When you hear senators speak, they are actually fighting the counties, whether they are in Kakamega, wherever they are always fighting their counties, and they're always raising issues that are neither here nor there. Because the point being that if Senate was really the upper house, because that's what we missed, it would be a more effective organ. It would be even a sanctioning and calling the National Assembly, which is the lower house, to question and so on. That is a weakness of our Constitution. In terms of the Senate, we also have a weaker National Assembly, which just kowtows to the executive. And therefore, you can't have a situation where you can say it's an ideal checks and balances. It is an executive that is overrunning the legislature, a legislature that is fighting to shout, to sing its praises to the executive, and that's not good. But generally, there's something that you said which I need to emphasize. If you have a leadership that is always telling its people that they are wrong, they don't know because they don't appreciate, then you have a problem. Because how come that you, the leader, you are the only one who seems to know? Everybody else does not know. But everyone else is ignorant. You are the only one who knows where you're going? Then why don't you go without us so that you don't need our vote? But if we are this thick, we don't understand, then you must ask yourself, how come I'm so smart? I'm more clever than all these fellows combined. You should ask yourself, something must be wrong. If you are the only one who is so smart, who knows everything, and the rest of us
don't know anything.
The genius in the room.
Yeah, we are just, every time we question, we say, surely there must be a problem.
Wakili, I want to look at the situation where 2022, 2026 now that they're getting into it. And one would have hoped that this is the time when a lot of work would have gone into pushing the country and the agenda forward, right? And you have rated it at 3. We're getting into 2026, and we know what 2026 means. early campaigns, full throttle gear, tuko ndani. What are we likely to see in 2026? Will anything ever happen if the past 3 years, nothing has really happened?
You see, we are a very interesting country. And that's how Michael Joseph said we are very peculiar. And indeed we are. We are the only people who will cry about a problem and go ahead and do it the same way. So, yes, we'll cry about our MPs. In fact, the history is 75% of our MPs tend to be
Re-elected.
to be rejected. Only about 25% get re-elected. That is our history. But who then replaces them? That is again our history. We have a problem with this one, and we bring back another look-alike, but in a different shirt. Number one. Number two, then the shirts change, because this time there might be a shirt that is multicolored. A part of the shirt will be orange, a part of the shirt will be yellow, a part of the shirt will be some other color. When you come with those multicolor, you are likely to find a bearing and you'll come in. The question is, have those multicolors given you what it takes for you to come and do representation? That again will be our problem. So what are we expecting? Expect more of the same. Expect us to play our politics the same way. Expect money to be the key issue here. Expect bribery. Expect violence. We saw it in the by-elections. And what violence does is scares away voters, and it then enables the vulnerable and perhaps the less there are people that will need to be escorted to go and vote. So they are more even vulnerable, and they are even now more amenable to being told how to vote. Expect those subservient fellows to go and vote the way they are told, and expect those who think that this thing is going to be violent to keep off. So, and then in the process, you'll find that the majority that will elect will be the majority that don't have an idea what is happening, and perhaps reflect again the kind of leadership we have. So, come 2027, after elections, we'll be like, hiya, where did you get Dennis from? Because there will be a number of people who will come with various shades, some we've never heard before, but they'll come because the moments, the imperatives are in their favor.
Everything is salvageable, they tell us. And so we get to the point where Kenyans will be asking the question, so where do we go? As opposed to sitting in this spot saying, okay, well, it's so bad, and I guess we just have to wait until the next thing that happens along. But is that the case? Is there something that can be done?
It can be done. By us talking about some of these things, we are actually telling you, the ordinary Kenyan, that you have to think of where you want to go. And you have to know that if you don't make the right choices, if you make the same choices, you cannot make the change you are looking for. If you don't like what you are seeing now, you cannot then go ahead and do the same thing again in 27. Look at what you don't like, make a determination from where you sit, and do something differently. But one thing I can tell a Kenyan as I look at them in the eye is that you cannot choose people without integrity. You cannot accept to be bribed. You cannot accept money. You don't know where people's which source, where the sources are from, and they expect that person loves you so much they can go to the bank, break the bank, bring all their money to you because they love you. No. Those people love themselves. They know when they spend on you, they'll have yet another opportunity to make more money through whichever means they have. So anybody who is ready to break the bank to seek your vote, be wary of that person. Why are they ready to buy? Why are they ready to kill? Why are they ready to maim? Be wary. So we are just saying that there are certain things, signs that you need to look out for. Why is this flashy fellow all of a sudden saying the right things or saying things that you want to hear? Why? It's because they know they will hoodwink you, and once you have been hoodwinked, you will vote for them, and once you vote for them, you will start again the same cycle. You're regretting how they got there. So have your eyes open, make your own decisions. But I also like to say that if we make a bed of roses with thorns, we should be able to be ready to lie in it. This leadership hasn't come from nowhere. These MPs haven't come from nowhere. They have come from us through our votes. So we must face the consequences.
But it is imperative for Kenyans today to wake up and smell the coffee and realize that the problems that bedevil them today, the unavailability of education capitation, health system that is not working, bad roads, bad leadership and governance, is as a result of decisions that was made to Kenyans. And that if we are to see the future, the dreams and aspirations that we want as Kenyans, if we want to get to the Singapore dream, then it is upon us. It is not up to the leadership that there is for us to get there. It is us to make the decision for our own selves, to depend aside for us to see the future that we want.
And I would like to tell a Kenyan, forget about Singapore. Think about Kenya and ask, how can Kenya be better? How can Kenya afford to feed its people? How can Kenya afford to give its people good health? How can Kenya ensure that its educated populace actually is productive and they're engaging in nation development? If you do that for me, I don't care who we look like. But don't tell me we want to be like Ndu. No. Ndu should just be Ndu. I should be me, but we must be better because we are living our lives in a manner that is desirable for us. So we don't want to compare ourselves with Somalia. No, we don't want to compare ourselves with Sudan. No. We want to say as a country, we started by saying we needed to eliminate 3 things. Ignorance,
Poverty.
disease, and poverty. 60-something years later, where are we on that scale? Our forefathers were dreaming, they remained dreams. Now we are dreaming and telling them we want to be like Singapore. And then what will happen 10 years, 15 years from now, we will be back here and saying, look, no, that dream wasn't anchored on our reality. So let's anchor our thoughts on our reality. Let's decide what is good for us. If leadership is important, let's take it seriously. Let's invest in it seriously. If integrity is important and accountability are important things, then let's look for people who have integrity and who are accountable. If we care that national resources should be used in such a way that all of us should benefit, then let's make sure that we don't allow people who then can, corruptly acquire resources come to seek our offices or our votes, and we give them. Let us decide on what we want. All I'm saying is that I don't want to blame a Kenyan, but I want to tell the Kenyan that we are what we want to be. If we want to be better, we will work for it.
Yes.
If we want to be people who are accountable and people who have integrity, we will work for it. But if we don't care, if anybody, I was asking a taxi driver yesterday, that if you knew I was a thief, would you employ me as a watchman in your home? If you knew. But no, people we can't trust. We see people whose resources, we trust them with the leadership. Then when you're in trouble, who do you
expect? Well, those are things to then be able to close the year on, even as we look at Parliament's in-tray and out-tray going into 2026. And it can't be said better, I think. There's a lot to think about for people as you come into a year that then ushers into another year where another decision will be made about who sits in positions of leadership, propelling this country to the places that it ought to go. Dr. Martinolo, thank you so much for being here this morning with us and having this conversation with us. And as you go, remember that you'll be safe as you drive. And you'll tell us, ukifika. Kabisa.
And thank you for having me. And let me take this opportunity to wish you in the studio. We've been working hard for the whole year to wish you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And to all our viewers and listeners who have been with us for all this time. And I know there are many. Every time we appear, they appreciate.
Yes.
Every time they don't agree with what we are saying, they comment. Yeah. And that's the way to go.
Absolutely.
We will not always be agreeing, but we must be able to listen to each other and build this country for ourselves.
For sure.
For sure.
We've been discussing how to navigate this constantly changing world, and when it comes to your money, you need a plan that's easy to access. The good news, ICA is making your financial journey seamless and digital. So forget the old-fashioned having to queue up somewhere.
Situation Room, the only way to start your day.